As some of you may know, I just completed a major textbook, 60-chapter FUE book, follicular unit excision book, that the only other book in the world on this subject was written by me or edited by me in 2016, and that was only 25 chapters. This one's 60 chapters, over 100 videos, where it went from 400 some pages now to over 1,300 pages. Now, what has evolved over those 5 short years since I wrote my first edition? Again, the only textbook on FUE in the world, major textbook, I should say. There's a couple out there that have like 4 chapters. They're very short, but only major textbook on the subject. Well, there's one simple thing that has evolved over 5 years that has just really, really changed the landscape of FUE. It's hybrid technology, and I've talked about this in another podcast. Out there. There are several hybrid technologies out there, but the 2 main ones are the WAW and the Trivellini ones, both of which I use. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the differences between the 2 and how I use one or the other and why I use one or the other. What are the pros and cons of that? And I own 2 WAWs or WOWs, W-A-W, and 2 Trivellinis or Mambas. So we'll call them WOW and Mambas. I may be interchanging these terms. First of all, let me just briefly recap hybrid technology. So what hybrid technology is that prior to 2017, there was only really 2 major categories of punches out there that harvested. One was a sharp punch that had a very sharp edge to it. The nice thing, it created a very clean harvest, but transection rates, cutting through graft follicles, was very, very temperamental and very, very high. The other was the dull punch or blunt punch, and that one was great because the transection rate was much lower, but there was a lot of capping. The grafts didn't look as clean oftentimes. There was I'm sorry, not capping. There could be buried grafts. The grafts were hard to harvest because it was a blunted punch. So the genius thing about the hybrid punch is that it's the best of both worlds, a sharp and a dull punch. The sharp edge, it looks like a trumpet. Some people call it a trumpet punch because it looks like the edge of a trumpet, where the outer edge is sharp, but it's facing away from the graft itself. The blunt end is going toward the graft. And the other thing that I didn't talk about with hybrid technology is oscillation. So in the past, it would be high rotary speeds, which cause a lot of injury to the graft itself during high velocity, thermal injury, mechanical injury. Now, oscillation means the punch goes down, going back and forth in a vibratory motion, left and right, and that causes a wiggle effect where it can actually get down to the base of the follicle without hurting it as much. Compared to the rotary action. So what are the pros and cons of each technology? So WOW and the Mamba are both absolutely awesome. I use them both very often. So the WOW one is the benefit really is that it's an incredibly good sensitive touch. It is run by a foot pedal, and the foot pedal is incredibly sensitive. I can feel the graft better than I can with the Trivellini. So I use the WOW in difficult harvest situations where I need better feeling during the harvest. It just gives me a better, I can't describe it, but a better feel as I go down. And in areas like the beard where there's a very soft tissue that I need to actually sort of caress the graft, I know that sounds a little weird, I need to glide my instrument into the subcutaneous plane. The WOW is just hands down a winner for me. And so that's when I use, like in African-American hair, difficult to harvest situations, scar tissue, beards, the WOW is really great. The Trivellini or the Mamba device has a lot of things going for it that the WOW does not have. Although the WOW right now, they're trying to come out with he's coming out with a new version that will capture some of the Trivellini benefits. So the one benefit of the Mamba is a lot. First of all, it's a multiphasic device. So what multiphasic means is that it goes there. I just told you rotation is no good, right? Well, rotation may be good for just the very initial scoring of the skin. So the outer epidermis to just the beginning of the dermal level, a rotary can score it very quickly without damaging the graft. And so you can set the rotation to a certain time interval, just like the first few milliseconds of scoring. That allows the oscillation that goes next to cradle the graft better. So especially when I'm dealing with thick dermises, like sort of the base of the scalp, where the dermis becomes progressively thicker. By being able to use a Trivellini, I'm able to score down the graft faster, whereas the WAW has a harder time penetrating through that deep tissue. So that it goes through what's called 3 phases. One is the rotation to score the epidermis dermis, and then to get down through the deeper dermis into the fat, it does an oscillation mode, and then the third one is a vibratory mode that sort of frees up the graft at the bottom. Now, Devois argues that the vibrational mode is not relevant. It doesn't do anything effective, and I can't argue that it does or doesn't. But definitely the rotation and the oscillation 2 phases is very, very nice. The other nice thing with the Trivellini device is that it's very light in the hand. Also, it has what's called smart react. So once I touch the skin, it automatically senses it, and it starts to activate the motion. And I can actually change the length of motion of each of the phases. So that's really, really nice. And then also has suction. So the suction is unlike the near graft, which I think can cause injury to the graft through desiccation. This just provides enough suction to take any of the blood that's there out. Also holds the graft intact in the center while the punch is going in. So speed and lightness is really, really awesome with the Mamba device. So these are probably the best state-of-the-art devices that are on the market today, and I use both of them. I have 2 of each of them, and sometimes I will use one or the other. It depends on the situation. Sometimes I start with one with a patient. I feel like this is not great for harvesting. I'll move to the other one. And so this is just understanding of the latest and greatest of hybrid technology and how I use it and why.